What if the greatest treasure in history was hidden not in a cavern, but sitting below a well-known shipping lane, passed over for centuries? The Spanish galleon, Nuestra Señora de Atocha, a floating bank vault, sank with a cargo worth over $400 million today. But it wasn't lost in the deepest abyss. It was waiting, partially exposed, in the same waters fishermen sailed and other ships passed by. Tonight, we trace the map of this oversight, a testament to how easily a fortune can hide in plain sight when people stop believing it's there. Forget the Hollywood treasure hunt with dramatic music and quick cuts. The real sound of finding $400 million was the monotonous, grinding hum of a dredge boat, day after empty day. Mel Fisher's operation wasn't about frantic digging, but methodical, almost meditative scanning of the ocean floor. It was factory work on the water, a soul-crushing rhythm of repetition that would make most people quit before lunch. Each sunrise brought the same grim routine. The boat moved in precise grid patterns, a slow dance over a vast, indifferent seabed. The sonar pinged, a lonely electronic heartbeat echoing into the deep. The dredge would scoop, its metal jaws biting into the bottom, only to come up with a mouthful of sand, rock, and disappointment. The crew worked in a haze of diesel fumes and salt spray, their hands calloused from handling wet ropes and empty equipment. This wasn't adventure. This was a blue-collar job with worse benefits and a much lower chance of a pension. Fisher himself became a permanent fixture on deck, a statue of belief staring at the horizon. Months bled into years with no significant finds, just the constant draining expense. Fuel, salaries, equipment maintenance. The bills piled up like the empty dredge buckets. Other treasure hunters would show up, spend a few impatient weeks scanning the area, and declare it barren before moving on to the next get-rich-quick scheme. They treated the ocean like a slot machine, pulling the lever a few times and walking away when it didn't pay out. But Fisher understood something they didn't. Finding something this valuable required treating the search like a religious practice rather than a business venture. The repetitive sound of the dredge itself became a kind of evidence, proof that someone still believed when everyone else had given up. It was a mantra against the silence of the sea and the louder silence of the skeptics. That constant mechanical drone was the only thing standing between the treasure and total obscurity. This daily ritual of faith, however, wasn't anchored by hope alone. It was anchored by something more tangible, something Fisher had spent years hunting down in a different kind of wilderness. The ghost in the archives. While the dredge searched the water, Fisher was hunting in libraries and archives, piecing together a ghost from paper trails. The real treasure map wasn't drawn on parchment, but buried in Spanish colonial records and ship manifests. These documents were scattered across continents, written in archaic Spanish, filled with contradictions and dead ends. It was a different kind of excavation, one that required a dust mask and reading glasses instead of a diving suit. Fisher spent years tracking down shipping logs, insurance records, and survivor accounts from other ships in the 1622 fleet. You're not looking for an X on a map. You're looking for a typo in a clerk's margin note, a discrepancy in a cargo weight, a throwaway line about the weather. Each document offered tiny clues, a reported depth that seemed off, a vague description of a reef, accounts of floating debris seen by sailors on other vessels days after the storm. The research was painstaking, requiring the patience of a historian rather than the boldness of an adventurer. This was the unglamorous side of treasure hunting, squinting at faded ink under fluorescent lights, hoping the paper doesn't crumble in your hands. So what kept his hope alive during those long years? The ocean gave up nothing, but the archives occasionally coughed up a breadcrumb, a single silver coin found by a fisherman miles away, a piece of pottery that matched the Atocha's known supply list. These fragments were enough. They were the physical proof that the ship was real, that the stories weren't just legends. They validated the years spent hunched over documents. These tiny finds were the only currency Fisher had to secure more funding and maintain crew morale when logic suggested abandonment. It's hard to ask investors for another $100,000 based on a hunch, but show them a tarnished piece of 8 pulled from the sand, and suddenly the ghost in the archives feels a little more solid. The archives pointed to one critical moment that would either confirm the entire endeavor or prove it a monumental waste of time. Every clue, every scrap of paper was leading to a single patch of seabed. What others call failure, Fisher called data. Each empty sweep of the dredge wasn't a setback. It was a line crossed off a massive, invisible map. After years of finding nothing, most rational people would conclude the treasure wasn't there. They would cut their losses and go home. Fisher faced mounting debts that would have bankrupted a small country. Skeptical investors pulled their funding, telling him he was chasing a ghost. Then came the real gut punch. His son and daughter-in-law died in a search-related accident. That kind of tragedy breaks most people. It doesn't just end a project, it ends a family. Yet Fisher continued. He refined his search patterns based on ocean current models and historical drift calculations. He treated each disappointment as eliminating territory, rather than as evidence against the treasure's existence. This approach required a psychological resilience that bordered on obsession. You have to see absence as progress. You have to find comfort in the growing list of places the treasure isn't. The team developed a dark humor about their failures. They joked that they were the world's leading experts on what wasn't on the ocean floor off the Florida Keys. They could give you a detailed geological survey of nothing. This persistence created a paradox. The longer they searched without success, the more certain Fisher became they were close. He understood that something this valuable wouldn't be easily found. The difficulty was part of the authentication process. If it were simple, someone would have stumbled upon it decades ago. The sheer, grinding effort required to find it was what made the prize legitimate. It was a perverse form of quality control. Every empty day was another layer of proof that when they did find something, it would be real. This unwavering commitment to the pattern, this faith in the data of failure, would eventually be validated. It wouldn't be a slow dawning of realization. It would be a single, definitive moment where the ocean finally gave up its secret. A moment that separated the dream from the reality. The Atocha wasn't hidden in plain sight because it was invisible. It was hidden because people stopped looking. Fisher's story reminds us that the greatest obstacles aren't physical barriers, but the gradual erosion of belief. It's a slow, quiet voice that says, it's not there, that you're wasting your time. That voice convinced everyone else. Now, dim the lights. Let the rhythm of that long-ago dredge boat, that steady, monotonous hum against the silence, lull you to sleep. Sometimes the reward isn't the treasure at the end. Sometimes persistence is the only thing you find.